What's up, people of the world? Making a video here. Alexander the Prophet. I just got back from a Bible study. I'm a little spooked. I think people are brainwashed pretty badly, and this awkward juxtaposition of me being in the position of being a prophet that people haven't acknowledged yet. I can see the severity in how people have been conditioned. They worship without thinking for themselves, whether I'm the receiving end of worship or not, to think of myself coming out to the global community as the reincarnation of Jesus in the flesh, as Alexander Juvelecus, a new incarnation. It freaks me out pretty badly. So we read from the New Testament, and I openly talked about remembering when I was 16, my past incarnation as Jesus. And they just listened, and they gave me a lot of respect and paid attention and gave me time to talk, even when I kind of tripped over my words, which I do sometimes. I'm careful, but I get caught up, and it feels like there's no other possibility, there's no other way. When I talk, it just comes slowly, and I have to be patient with myself. So that went well in terms of being received. I appreciated it. But something I'm battling right now is the creepy vibe. So I have a lot of trauma. A lot of it is sexual trauma. I had a gay experience when I was a kid. Like, I had 2 girlfriends when I was in 3rd grade. I moved to a new school, and then I made a new best friend. And I had one of my first erotic experiences, and that damaged my nervous system, my senses. I'm grateful that I've had the life that I've had, and I wouldn't change anything. But looking back, I feel shame. I feel disgusted with myself. I feel that it caused a lot of irregular modalities in my life afterward. I didn't perceive things in a healthy way. I was needy. I was desperate. I was, in my own opinion, pathetic. And I battled bad self-esteem in my preteen years until I started making good friends in my teenage years, and then everything sort of leveled out, and I just got to know myself. But beyond just a gay homosexual experience, I mean, I did some perverted things with my cat and my dog, and that is really disgusting. And I know there are other people out there that probably are not courageous enough to talk about it, but I'm making this video and I'm just kind of diving all the way in. Fast forward 15 years, in that time I've had sex in public with women. I had sex on the beach when I went to Israel. I had sex with my girlfriend in a public bathroom one time. Some good sex experiences, and a handful of girlfriends that I would write poetry for and I wrote songs about, and I just proclaimed my love to them, and then I saw every time that it was just a dead end, and I would break up with them, and a couple times they broke up with me. So, I don't think I'm a loser, I don't think I'm a winner. I think it all just was kind of evened out in the end. But most traumatically, I could get in trouble for this. I'm thinking it's illegal what I did. When I was homeless, I had a sleeping bag. When I was in a sleeping bag, I was frustrated with day-to-day living. I let out my frustration in the way that I'm implying inside my sleeping bag when I was camping around town. And a couple times during the day and a couple times during the nighttime, and that's just unacceptable. And for anybody that's concerned for the community that I was homeless in, I want you to know that I learned from my actions and I will never do that again. I have absolutely the intention of never doing that again. I've prayed about it today, and I want to get all this shame off of my chest. It was absolutely unacceptable. That's it. And just like that, I'm correcting myself to be a role model to the younger generation and an equal to my fellow men out there, and just lead by example in terms of conduct. Conduct is a strong word. I believe so in monastic life, and that's referring oftentimes to sexuality, sexual conduct. But conduct is how you conduct yourself, and it's very formal expression, but I think it definitely does the job. So other than that, like, as my proximity has been getting closer to the people around me, I'm not kind of isolated in this sober living house that I'm at, minding my own business, kind of being a loner after getting out of jail and a mental hospital. I did 19 months, 6 months in a mental hospital and 13 months in county jail, and I just got out a couple months ago, about 6 months ago, December. I'm slowly approaching that tension that I feel with other people, that is governed, led by, guided by, parallel to social cues, communication, enjoyment of sharing with another person and having a conversation, or joking, or learning, or just spending time together. I'm getting closer, and this is the weight that I've been carrying, just these creepy vibes, like I'm not trustworthy to families. I really hurt the integrity of the community I was homeless in a couple of years ago. There were families in the neighborhood. There were people walking around. It wasn't just young people. It wasn't just old people. It wasn't just men. It wasn't just women. It wasn't just old people. It wasn't just kids. All of it is just disgusting. It grosses me out. It's a gross subject. It shouldn't even be talked about because people shouldn't do it. But I made the mistake, and I was so detached and disassociative of myself, if that makes sense, that I could not tell right from wrong. I was in a different state of mind, and it wasn't completely unhealthy. I was thinking differently and having interesting experiences every day, learning, talking to people, spending time alone, spending time with strangers to be made into friends, making friends. But, you kind of drift off into that distance and you do some weird things, and you look back at it later and you go, fuck, what did I do, man? I can't tell anybody about that. And here I am talking on YouTube because it gets the job done. So I was disassociative. I'm back. That proximity, that tension. I'm going to a Bible study. I'm talking openly about being a prophet. That's a lot of tension. And to hear people praying in the name of Jesus, I cannot explain how many conflicting emotions I have hearing that. I feel disgusted. I feel inspired. I feel judgmental, if that can translate as some sort of an emotion. I feel condescending. I feel in awe of and unworthy. I think something to touch base on more that I would highlight out of each of those attributes, those emotions, those reactions: in awe and unworthy, and judgmental. I think these people are insane, man. They're brainwashed. And it doesn't matter if I'm the receiving end of some sort of gratitude, appreciation, love, worship, honor. It doesn't matter. I want to see people around me flourish. And I want to see them be strong in their minds and face the difficult things in this world, in this life, to face. I don't personally, if I have to make up my mind about what I would be happy to see in this world, I would be happy to see people go on a spiritual journey. Don't read the Bible, get a backpack and walk. And I've done that, and dude, I'm done. I'm so done. I did so many different things in 15 years. I went to another country. I had a foreign girlfriend. I jumped trains. I lived in LA as a homeless person. I painted people and had my own business. I sold prints of my original art. I busked since the time I was 16 until now I'm 31. I sang somebody a song a couple months ago and they gave me $5. I needed some money, so I went over to the plaza area from where I stay here, just down the street. I'm ready to just let go. So many mystical experiences, energy this, energy that, mysticism this, mysticism that, shamanism, yoga, Kabbalah, Kundalini, Tantra, we could just go down every avenue. I want people to explore. And for those that don't want to know about the darkness, I don't know what to say. Because I was intrigued, I was curious, I was fearless until the devil chewed me up and spit me out. No, dude. I met a force that couldn't be conquered. It was a different dimension. I couldn't see his face. I heard somewhere in the Bible it says only Moses is above others for that, because he saw God's face and it was radiant upon his when he came back from the top of Mount Sinai each time he would go and pray to God. And it was sort of explained by him, by others, by teachers, by interpreters of the religious community, the priests. Nobody can see God's face and live. You just can't. So I had this mystical experience where I was connecting that expression that I heard once that was in the Bible. I don't know where it is. I couldn't quote it exactly. But that I met this very powerful dude in LA when I was lost, and I was purely following subtleties in the air, this energy. I wasn't talking to people, I wasn't looking at people, I wasn't initiating anything. I didn't want anything from anybody except food and cigarettes. And I did that for a couple of years until one night I'm lost, and I was still wandering. Funny enough, to come full circle in this monologue, I was carrying the creepy vibes. I hadn't come to terms with the violations that I've committed against humanity, whether it be those beginning traumas that I had, those sexual traumas. That's bestiality borderline, but it makes no difference. Once you do even a minor thing to an animal, it makes you very sick in your way of thinking and interacting, and it spills over into your interactions with other people. So those minor offenses that are still not justified, I hadn't forgiven myself. I hadn't opened. I hadn't felt the certainty that I would be accepted by God, that I would be accepted by people, that I could accept myself again, and that I could see that it can't be changed and it's in the past, and the only thing I can do is learn from it and move forward. And I was still carrying those. I hadn't had those experiences yet when I was homeless a couple years ago, just 3 years ago or so. In my sleeping bag, it's the middle of the night, I'm camping in the city. There's like shops everywhere. It's really creepy. I'm sorry. It's really fucked up. I'm sorry. But it was before that. I didn't, for all I know, for all I knew, that I would make more mistakes. And it would slowly but surely, through authenticity, that it would get better based on intention. That was at a time when I really didn't mean to hurt anybody when I was camping in the city homeless 3 years ago. I had no intention of hurting anybody. I was so focused, but each time I made a mistake, belligerence, yelling at somebody, being impatient, just slowly giving up hope. I got angry at myself and I kicked myself. Fuck, why did I do that? Fuck, why did it happen like that? Why didn't it happen? Whatever I was hoping for. So anyways, this mystical experience, I met the guy that didn't have a face. And he had dreadlocks. I could see him from behind. And I went up to him and I put both my hands on his back. He was sitting late at night in LA with a couple friends and they were drinking some liquor or something. And I walked up and I asked the girl on the end of the line, there were like 4 of them, I think. I asked her for a cigarette and she rolled me a cigarette and gave it to me. And I sat down. I was like, I had nowhere to be. I was disconnected. Just wanted food and cigarettes. So I needed to ground somewhere. I'm looking around late at night and it's scary downtown, So I walked over to him and he felt holy. He was wearing this Nepalese jacket, sort of that auburn orange that Tibetan monks wear. And it was in squares, sort of quilted. And he had a strong back. He had like a really wide back. So I just remember this character that I saw in front of me. I said, that guy's a powerful dude. So I put my hands on his back. I didn't know. I couldn't talk. It was just so... It was like everything was purely nonverbal communication. And he reached behind him, and I reached over, and I shook his hand. And this is where I came to meet the devil. I was experiencing a perception. They got up and started to walk down the street. And he said, let's go. And I looked up and I thought that he included me in his words to go. So I started walking. And his right-hand man, he said, what are you doing? You're following us. And this is the moment that changed my life. Mystically, Kabbalistically, Torah, Rastafarianism, Judaism, Judaically, religiously, spiritually, dualistically, non-duality wise. This is the moment that changed my life. He grabbed me and threw me, and he said, you're about to get kicked. And I put my hands up like this. First instinct. This is how much of a God-loving man I am. I do this almost every day. I said, and he said, and he walked away. They can be kind, but firm. God created Lucifer. That's what's said. That's what's written. He created an angel that fell He didn't obey God. But the devil is a creation of the Lord. So how can that be that a perfect God exists above us in heaven, within us, within others, within nature, around us, inside us? And yet with all that perfect love, that life can be unfair. That even though I was a religious man on a journey, a sojourner, me, a wanderer, looking for God, praying to God every day, meditating, reciting mantra, still not quite there, could have such a frightening experience when my intention was so pure. I was creepy. That's it. I was this slim, shadowy figure in their downtown experience of that night, and I was the stranger. Now that's not what I saw. I saw a beautiful hippie tribe that was welcoming me back to the van to have a couple smokes, to talk, maybe smoke some ganja, get a little crossfaded and party for a night and exchange Facebook info and be friends in the future, and just we cross paths and I made a friend. Whether the Facebook thing happened or not, I'm just thinking like how I was thinking at that time, a couple years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I don't remember. But their perception was the slim, shady stranger that night downtown. So this guy at the Bible study group told me to read a passage. And the passage talked about Philip and eunuch. A eunuch that was reading scripture in Jerusalem. And Philip walked up to him and said, "Do you understand what you're reading?" And the eunuch, the castrated man, said, "I don't understand it. I need somebody to explain it to me." So what happened was, eunuch at that time had humbled himself to receive a teaching. And he said at the time, he felt like a sheep that was about to be slaughtered. He felt this unexpressed, unvocalized, unverbalized, non-verbalized understanding that he ought not to speak because he's sitting right in front of the person that is holding some sort of power. So the gentleman that invited me to the Bible study, he said to me, "We all need people to teach us the Bible." And he looked at me, and I wondered if he was trying to intimidate me. The same unspoken tension that I felt that night in Los Angeles, that will never, ever reoccur. I pray for it not to, because it was very frightening, but also it was such a high spiritual understanding and lesson that I sought and that came to me and that I found and that we met. That happened that night, and I realized this was my last resort. Cling to God and just get through and acknowledge your faults. Don't follow people in the middle of the night. Just, you got to be more cautious, Alexander. You, right? So he looked at me, this guy who invited me to the Bible study, and he said, we all need people to teach us the Bible. And I felt like he was staring me down. This was just like an hour ago. I just got back, and this is where all these ideas came from. But I said to him, I had the right to speak. I had the right to speak, unlike Eunuch, who said he couldn't talk. He felt like he was being confronted by the slaughterer of the sheep while Philip was explaining what the verses meant. He said, we all need people to teach us the Bible. And I said, I'm not the sheep. And he said, what? And I knew in that moment I was still humble. It is such a deeply ingrained lesson that I had in Los Angeles those years ago, 6 or 7 years ago. Don't challenge that. Do not say anything directly. Don't say the name devil. Don't bring that energy. You have to be reverent. You have to remain reverent, Alexander. I was talking myself through it. You can't just say, are you saying that you're more powerful than me and I can't talk? You can't do that. Because at that moment of consciousness transpiring, you are in danger. The guy might flip out. You are being shared with another, such a vulnerable spot of the soul and the heart, conducting Bible study, openly talking, sharing, loving, inviting, getting to know one another. So many layers to this interaction. You cannot flare up if that insecurity shows itself. So I said the stronger thing. I thought for a second about what to say. I said, I'm not the sheep. I was implying, you're not the slaughterer, dude. I'm the big bad dude that jumped trains and found the gutter punks and fucking, well, I'll do your shit up, bro. So I told him I'm not the sheep. And he said, no, the lamb is Jesus. He just changed it. He didn't even hear what I said. He said, the lamb is Jesus. And I said, I know, bro. I'm not the sheep. And he said, no, you're not. So it was at that moment he was like, he was threatened by me. And he was saying, you're not Jesus. And I, still in this moment, I can say consciously, I know I'm not Jesus, I'm Alexander. It's a past incarnation. It's a really involved process, spiritually, metaphysically, energetically, how carnation works. I don't know. There are teachings. I have to learn more. But I know enough. So we worked it out, I just told him I'm really proud of myself. I told him, listen. He said, do you still want to come back for another Bible study? And I said, sure. I corrected myself a couple minutes later. I said, actually, I'm not sure I want to come back. And he said, what? He said something. He just responded with something neutral. I told him, listen, whatever was going on non-verbally, I understood it when it happened. I said, violence is not acceptable when we are talking about the Bible. This is what I told him. Basically, I said this: you may not implement violence verbally, you may not implement violence physically, you may not implement violence with your intention. You may not do that. This is holy. You may not do that. And he said, okay. So something took over, and speaking in terms of you may not, I wanted, you see, like I've been through those rough experiences with other grown men, and I'm still finding myself today because I'm not surrounded by people my own age. I'm not surrounded by more mature grown men, 30s, 40s, 50s, like I appreciate the time with, more so than men in their 20s. They were all in their 20s. They're young. But I don't need to mix the expression, I'm gonna knock you out, bro, with something as I hope I can keep reverent, the word. You see, I'm even violating my highest intention by saying knock you out. Like, I don't want to bring those words into the same monologue as the Bible is a holy thing. They do not belong together. It's unacceptable. I will make an intention not to do that again. But I'm saying, no matter how flimsy I look right now, here on this camera, talking all sensitively, I had erotic experiences with my best friend when I was like 8 or 9. Like, all this shit I'm saying has nothing to do with how I can square up, how I can two-step, how I can fucking rep, bro. Because I've been through the spectrum of experiences that are very low vibrations and resonances, and those higher, more subtle, heart-centered places. I'm trying to navigate a huge travel right now, just guiding my spirit and my soul and trying to find where I belong. But my roots aren't fully dropped in. My branches can't go as high as I want because I don't have the foundation set. Otherwise, I'll lose my balance. So I just don't want to rock those low oscillating energies and run into violence, because that's the last thing I need. I just got out of jail. I'm on probation. I can't even talk to anybody at this house the way I just expressed what I felt in my gut when he was trying to stare me down. So I'm on total, like, self-responsibility mode, self-accountability mode, maturity mode, compassion. I'm staying here, So I'm not trying to flare up, but it does feel good to talk about it, and it feels very empowering for me to get these words out and just express that I'm a powerful dude, and I know I'm a powerful dude, and I had the G thing going for a couple years, and I changed, but like, nobody has to believe me. So I'm saying, if that doesn't translate in this monologue, or you, whoever's watching, or somebody's feeling my vibes right now, or somebody out in the hallway can hear me, it doesn't matter if you believe me or not. I'm saying all of this for me, and I hope that it serves other people. I do. So yeah, I mean that's mostly what was on my chest, but these are very real things. And like, there's only so deep I can go, because I realize when you start talking about lower vibrational subjects, it opens the doors to other places. So by me talking about Kabbalah, I told him there's a saying in Kabbalistic teaching, as above, so below. By me saying that, they're putting arsenal preparatorily to, shoot back, have the conversation. Everybody wants to be the mature guy. Everybody wants to flex a little bit. But, I'm not going to go to Bible study on the first day and start talking devil this and devil that. I've been on a long-ass journey. I used to do throat singing. I used to meditate. I used to do Hindu prayer. Shiva this, Shiva that, absolute reverence. I'm sorry that I'm sort of referring to it disrespectfully, but I don't believe it in anymore. But I hit all kinds of vibrational makeups in the body and the soul and the spirit, all the different layers. And I was on that prana and chi movement for a while, whatever was happening for me. I was doing qigong, I was practicing pranayama, I was like a really deep breather. And there's some demonic things in this world. There are. And so now I'm just also acknowledging by going a little bit lower on the totem pole of spiritual matters. I'm opening the door. Like I said right now, talking about Kabbalah, everybody's loading their arsenal preparatorily, want to go back and forth. Who's got it more? The point isn't the ego. That's the problem. So to talk about it objectively, to say, I think I met the devil and I survived and I'm really grateful. That's a lot different from saying, dude, you don't know the devil. Like I've seen some really horrible things and like I won like 10 fights and like that's totally different. We're bringing together an atmosphere of reflection, contemplation, meditation, prayer. And I guess in that place, mysticism belongs, but entities that are regarded as dark, low, heavy, powerful, strong, protective, those don't necessarily lead the discussion. If you want to talk about mysticism, you need to be well versed. Kabbalah, Sufism. Those are the only two I can think of. Dang. Alright, well, I feel much better. Anything else I need to close up? I mean, I guess I'm seeing my heart. It's wide open right now. I just spilled a bunch of things, and I touched base on a lot of subjects. So now let me just kind of close the wound of my heart and just remember that I made myself really vulnerable by talking about traumas, and that I have an intention to heal myself and to be healed and to heal any others that were affected by it. Anybody that was harmed by me doing something atrocious, something that's unacceptable, I'm sorry. I hope that it heals all the good people in that town. I'm sorry. So I'm here. I can walk a little taller now, I feel good, YouTube is a good place to let this out, and I know that my highest intention is being taken into consideration by some of the more authoritative people that witness these videos. Anybody who has some stature in the legal system, whatever, you might just see past my words and just see he's a good guy. I'm just kind of protecting my own back by saying, like, that's unacceptable, and society doesn't like it. It hates it. Like, sexual heinous crimes are the lowest problems that there are. So, I'm not that. I am part of the divine. I am all of the divine. I am none of the divine. God is everything. God is everyone. Everything is connected. Thank you to the people that are taking it upon themselves to help heal me and be patient. I appreciate it. Thank you.